Chapter 32 of Genesis. Laban rose early next morning, and kissing his sons and daughters, he blessed them. Then Laban left to return home. While Jacob was going on his way, angels of God met him. And on seeing them, he said, "This is God's camp." And he named the place Mahanaim. Jacob prepares for his meeting with Esau. Jacob sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, the countryside of Edom, with these instructions. "Say this to my lord Esau. Here is the message of your servant Jacob. I have been staying with Laban till now, and have acquired oxen, beasts of burden, and flocks, and men and women slaves. I send news of this to my lord in hope of winning your approval." The messengers returned to Jacob and told him, "We went to your brother Esau, and he is already on his way to meet you. There are 400 men with him." Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. He divided the people with him and the flocks and cattle into 2 companies, saying, "If Esau comes to one of the companies and attacks it, the other company will be left to escape." Jacob said, "O God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, Yahweh, who said to me, 'Go back to your country and family, and I will make you prosper.' I am unworthy of all the kindness and goodness you have shown your servant. I had only my staff when I crossed the Jordan here, and now I can form 2 companies. I implore you, save me from my brother's clutches, for I am afraid of him. He may come and attack us and the mothers and their children. Yet it was you who said, 'I will make you prosper and make your descendants like the sand on the seashore, so many that it cannot be counted.'" Then Jacob passed the night there. From what he had with him, he chose a gift for his brother Esau: 200 she-goats and 20 he-goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 camels and milk with their calves, 40 cows and 10 bulls, 20 she-asses and 10 donkeys. He put them in charge of his servants in separate droves, and he told his servants, "Go ahead of me," leaving a space between each drove and the next. He gave the first this order: "When my brother Esau meets you and asks, 'To whom do you belong? Where are you going? Whose are those animals that you are driving?' you will answer, 'To your servant Jacob. They are a gift sent to my lord Esau. Jacob himself is following.'" He gave the same order to the second and the third, and to all who were following the droves. "That is what you must say to Esau when you find him. You must say, 'Yes, your servant Jacob himself is following.'" For he argued, "I shall conciliate him by sending a gift in advance. So when I come face to face with him, he may perhaps receive me favorably." The gift went ahead of him, but he himself spent that night in the camp. Jacob wrestles with God. That same night he rose, and taking his 2 wives and his 2 slave girls and his 11 children, he crossed the ford of the Jabbok. He took them and sent them across the stream, and sent all his possessions over it too. And Jacob was left alone. And there was one that wrestled with him until daybreak, who, seeing that he could not master him, struck him in the socket of his hip, and Jacob's hip was dislocated as he wrestled with him. He said, "Let me go, for day is breaking." But Jacob answered, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." He then asked, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he replied. He said, "Your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have been strong against God. You shall prevail against men." Jacob then made this request, "I beg you, tell me your name." But he replied, "Why do you ask my name?" And he blessed him there. Jacob named the place Peniel, "Because I have seen God face to face," he said, "and I've survived." The sun rose as he left Peniel, limping because of his hip. That is the reason why, to this day, the Israelites do not eat the sciatic nerve, which is in the socket of the hip, because he had struck Jacob in the socket of the hip on the sciatic nerve. Chapter 33, the meeting with Esau. Looking up, Jacob saw Esau arriving with 400 men. Accordingly, he divided the children between Leah, Rachel, and the 2 slave girls. He put the slave girls and their children in front, with Leah and her children following, and Rachel and Joseph behind. He himself went ahead of them and bowed to the ground 7 times before going up to his brother. But Esau ran to meet him, took him in his arms, and held him close and wept. Then looking up, he saw the women and children. "Who are these with you?" he asked. Jacob answered, "The children whom God has bestowed on your servant." The slave girls then came up with their children, and they all bowed low. Leah also came along with her children, and they all bowed low. Finally, Rachel and Joseph came up and bowed low. Esau asked, "What was the meaning of all the company that I have met?" "It is to win my Lord's favor," he replied. "Brother, I have plenty," Esau answered. "Keep what is yours." Jacob protested, "Please, if I have found favor with you, accept the gift I offer. To speak truly, I came into your presence as into the presence of God, but you have received me kindly, so accept the gift I have brought for you. Since God has been generous to me, I have all that I need." And he urged him, and Esau accepted. Jacob leaves Esau. Esau said, "Let us break camp and move off. I will lead you." But Jacob replied, "My Lord is aware that the children are weak, and I must consider the sheep and the cows that have calved. If they are driven too hard, even for one day, the whole drove will die. May it please my Lord to go on ahead of his servant. For my part, I will move at a slower pace to suit the flock I am driving and the children until I join my Lord in Seir." Then Esau said, "But I must at least leave you some of the people accompanying me." "Why?" Jacob asked. "All I desire is to win your favor." So that day Esau resumed his journey to Seir. But Jacob left for Succoth, where he built himself a house and made shelters for his livestock. That is why the place was given the name of Succoth. Jacob arrives at Shechem. Jacob arrived safely at the town of Shechem in Canaanite territory on his return from Padan Aram. He encamped opposite the town, and for 100 pieces of silver he bought from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, the piece of land on which he had pitched his tent. Here he erected an altar which he called El, God of Israel.